effectively solve past question papers, massive amount of papers. 50 mocks or 5,000. We'll start thinking like an exam setter. It's a three-step framework with your preparation. You can then mark these concepts to green, yellow and red. I'm Swapnil Ingale, alumnus of IIM Lucknow, and this is how I converted 17 IIM calls. Today we will take a look at how to effectively solve past question papers and revision problems, which is a part of my CAT preparation series. I remember the days when I was preparing for CAT exam, juggling between office and study, solving massive number of past papers and mocks in a hurry from different websites that I can get my hands on. Literally massive amount of papers. Over time, I realized that I had prepared for my exams before this, where I had very few practice questions, and I still made it work pretty well. So I took a step back and realized it does not matter if you are solving 50 mocks or 5,000. If you are not analyzing them properly, it is a waste of time. The most important parameter which we need to keep in mind is confidence. When you look at the maths problem 2 plus 2, you can say with 100% confidence that the answer is 4. Your brain is subconsciously giving you the confidence because you know all the possible ways how to explain this if someone asks for more details on this. Same, you need to apply to all the questions that you are solving and rank your confidence even before checking what is the correct answer for it. Because the goal should be to solve the answer with 100% confidence so that you can solve similar answers again and again.
Interesting.
Psychologically, many times we think we are confident about something, and when that is proved wrong, we tend to remember it for a longer time. This is called the hypercorrection effect. I once got in a bet with my friend that the villain of Shaktiman is Samrat Kilvish, and it turned out it was Tamraj Kilvish. I can't even say it.
That's a bet.
Lost 100 rupees for it, never got it back, and never forgot that the villain of Shaktiman was Tamraj Kilvish. So here is a three-step framework to raise your confidence when you are reviewing your practice problems. Step 1 is to know why the right answer is right and why the wrong answers are wrong. That's why it's always helpful to have an answer key to check your answers, but make sure it has a detailed explanation which explains the thought process behind that problem. Step 2 is to change the variables of answer choices or change the variable of the question itself. For example, if you know why the wrong answers are wrong, how would you change the wrong answers to make it right? Or how would you change the questions itself so that the wrong answers would be right? Kind of confusing, I know. Because once you start manipulating the questions and the answers, you will start thinking like an exam setter. And if you gain that confidence, then you can ask this question in a different manner and make it more difficult. That is what your exam setters are also doing. So now let's practically try out tips number 1 and tip number 2 on a practice problem. And because I love triangles, let's start with something we are all familiar with so that you don't feel lost. So I will draw a right angle triangle here. One side is 6, the other side is 4, and we'll be solving for this side over here. Let me put in some choices. So let's say choice A is 12, choice B is 7.2, and choice C is 17.2. So we will now find this x. We will have to use the Pythagoras theorem over here. So starting with the Pythagoras theorem, a square plus b square equal to c square. We know a and b. So 6 square plus 4 square will be our x square over here. It's 36 plus 16. That will give us our x square. The value is 52 of x square. If we use our calculators and do a square root, we will get an answer of 7.2. So now let's suppose this problem was only thing you wanted to learn for the exam. For maths, it's quite obvious because it's all calculations. But if I stop and think why this 12 and this 17.2 were options here, and could they be possible answers in this situation? So with this limited information, what else can I solve it for? So I know that I can find the area of a right angle triangle if I have the height and the base of the triangle. So the area of the triangle here, it becomes half into height into base. We know the height and the base, so We have half into 4 into 6, that gives us half of 24, and cool, that gives us 12. So the answer choice 12 that is the answer choice A, was to solve for the area of a triangle. So one parameter that I can think of is the perimeter of our triangle. Perimeter of the triangle is A plus B plus C. We have the value 6 plus 4 and what we calculated earlier, that is 7.2, and that gives us a 17.2. So the last option becomes the perimeter of my triangle. So I know with confidence why the options A and C were wrong, because they were for different aspects of the triangle from what we were looking for as an answer over here. So now let's move on to tip number 2, which is how can I change the variables of the answers or the questions itself so that I can explore other perspectives. For instance, how would it look like if I was given 7.2 here and was asked to solve for the other side of the triangle? So we will use the same formula here and input these variables, and we get, through the Pythagoras theorem, we get again a square plus b square is equal to c square. We know 6 square plus x square here becomes 7.2 square. Again, if we do the calculations, we get x square is equals to 16. If we do a square root, we get x equal to 4, which we already knew earlier. So that's pretty straightforward. Now what if the angle given here, that is in this triangle, is not 90 degrees? So and we cannot apply the Pythagoras theorem here. So now we have to apply what we call as the law of cosines, which is c equal to square root of a square plus b square minus 2ab cos of the angle. Once you know what angle is given over here, you input that in this formula, and that gives you the correct answer. Okay, so let's get back to the framework. So the last step actually happens after you finish reviewing your problems for the day, and it is really important step. You have to track your confidence for all the topics that you study, otherwise you will end up wasting precious time reviewing those concepts. So how do you track this? You can either use your simple Google Sheets to do so. Just list down all the concepts that you need to cover and mark them green, yellow and red. By green, it means that you have 100% confidence on that particular concept. Yellow means somewhere around 50 to 80% you are confident about it. And red means there is a less than 50% confidence that you have on this concept. As you go along with your preparation, you can then mark these concepts to green, yellow and red. Change the colors of them as and when you go through the concept and gain more confidence on it.